It's not about spaceships.
Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show.
It's not about spaceships.
Hello, Internet. I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. And today we are talking about video games and Star Wars. So, yeah, this week's going to be a bit weird. My kids have parent-teacher conferences, so the teachers are pretty much on an early day schedule the whole week. So it kind of makes everything a bit wacky with everybody's schedule. So I figured I would just get on and at least talk about something right now, which is this Star Wars gaming rumor that's going around. And also, we plan to, I think, go live about 9 p.m. most days, tonight, most days, with me and the guys like usual. But you know, some of you I know kind of need some Star Wars talk. Oh, took my whole camera down early in the morning, and that's why I'm doing this now, because I figured we'd just do a little mini episode at least, and something that won't necessarily like be, you know, a panel discussion necessarily. But I see like Joel and Ducky are here, so if you know, and I don't know a lot about this topic. I play video games. I know video games, but I'm not such a gamer that like I'm like, oh man, are you serious? Like this company's making it, yeah, man. Like I don't really, I don't really get that excited for things like that. But basically, Todd Henderson at Dual Shockers, it says that Quantic Dream has been developing a Star Wars game for the past 18 months. So that is pretty open at the same time. Like when they've been developing a game for 18 months, I don't really, I don't know what that means. It's like you want to get excited, like it means it's coming out next year, but I don't know if it means that. 18 months it's over a year, obviously. If you could do basic math, you know this. But it also doesn't mean that they've been like making the game in development. I mean, it could, like I said, it could be a lot of things. Like I would have to think that they'd have a pitch on what the game was, and then they would move forward and development would begin. But the early stages of that stuff, and with Star Wars and concept art and all that kind of jazz, like it could still be pretty early in this game's development, And I will say, yeah, Geek Furious makes a point that I think is valid, but Lucasfilm has been developing like 20 movies since 2012, right? But I think it's a little bit different when an outside studio, a contractor, so to speak, is working on something. That means it's going to come out. It has to come out, or it should come out. And their company is like literally, at the behest of Lucasfilm in this game, if they've done it. So I think I think it is good news if you're into Star Wars gaming. Like I'm so on the fence about Star Wars gaming in general. It's like we tend to look back at the past with like, rose tinted glasses or whatever the saying is, because most Star Wars games have sucked. That's just the truth. Most of them have been pretty much complete dog shit. And the fact that a few of them really hit the spot, that dopamine hit, it keeps us all going, oh wow, what's it going to be? Like the next main adventure. And let's put it this way. What do we got going on right now? We got the Zanga Headhunters, Zanga Star Wars Hunters game coming out. And that's going to be like on the Switch and mobile devices, which is like, I believe, sort of like their Fortnite Battle Royale clone sort of game. And it could be super fun. It could just be dumb fun, I mean, it has a Jawa, and another Jawa stands on the other Jawa's shoulders like like, Little Rascals or something. And how do you take that too seriously? You know what I mean? How do you get like angry at that game when that's where they've set their bar? There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's cool. But we have that, right? We have that open world Star Wars game from Massive. That's the one I'm probably the most excited about. That's the one that has the most, I think, opportunity to bring a ton of lore and all that kind of jazz to it. We have the Indiana Jones game from Machine Games. We have the Knights of the Old Republic remake, which I'm excited for. I need more information on that one though. I need to know if the Knights of the Old Republic game, are they doing a complete like redesign from the floor up, or are they just essentially upscaling what they did back then? Because I don't know. I think after a few minutes, you're just going to be like, okay, I now remember the game this way, and it's going to, if you played the original game, it's not going to be that much more exciting, at least not for me. I mean, if it works for you, great. But yeah, so we have like a few of these, right? A few games in development. Probably one of them is going to be good. Just looking at past Star Wars games and how it's gone, one of these might be good. If you want to look to the past for how things have classically gone, one will be good and one's a remake. So I'm not really in a place where I'm like, Star Wars gaming is, oh my God, it's so exciting. And it's just kind of been like sort of a clusterfuck. I mean, I made a video about Ragtag, which is the canceled Star Wars game, and the story sounded rad. So, and that's what I delve into for the most part in that. And so, why I am excited about this is that, from what I understand, Quantic Dream makes narrative-based games. So I'm not making a Ragtag connection as in they're reviving it. I'm not trying to say that. But what I am suggesting is that these should be a very nice little Star Wars story at bare minimum, a fun game at best. And that's, I think, a really good opportunity because, when you get down to it, like Star Wars Hunters is probably not really going to further us story fans. I'm assuming if you follow my channel, you're into the films and you're into, Star Wars stories. And of course, there's overlap with gaming and stuff like that. Like the last, the EA Star Wars games have the worst rep, but well, at least Battlefront 2 does. And Battlefront 2 was mismanaged, went down a greedy road. But when you look at where Battlefront 2 ended up, it's fantastic. That is a great game. It ended up a fantastic game with a little bit of too little too late, though, for it. Like, I like it. I'll jump on and I'll play it. I play it with my kids. We have a good time. But, and they made it free on like PlayStation a little while ago or something like that. And on they gave it out for free, I think, via one of the stores. And a bunch of new people came in and it was like, wow, it's back. It's great. But that, of course, it fell apart because they stopped developing the game, stopped adding to it. So it's like it's like one of those games where I'm like, it did end up good. But so what now? They stop putting out stuff for it. And that's a huge bummer. And yeah, I mean, it's true, Joel. I love Ewok Hunt. Ewok Hunt is just one of the best moments I've ever had in Star Wars gaming. Was just, Ewok Hunt. I love it. I can't say it enough. Ewok Hunt. I can't stop saying it because it's just fun. Ewok Hunt. It's just fun, But that mode, for instance, if you are into Ewok hunting, you can't really do it because there's not enough people playing the game. You will queue up for the mode. I don't even know if the mode's still in there right now, but a few months back, you would try to queue up for it. And I was the only one who loved Ewok Hunt enough to still try and play it, that last year. So that's just the world that we live in, just the world that we live in, you guys. But yeah, and that's not to say I haven't to go back to what I was saying earlier about Star Wars gaming having classically really pretty much sucked. Um, I love a lot of games. There's a lot of good games over the years, but when you take it down to like a 20-year, even a 30-year like spectrum, and you're like, when you remove nostalgia, the fact that like you got this on Christmas morning and your parents still loved each other and you hadn't ruined your life yet. When you take all that stuff out of the equation and just look at the game itself, it's like, is this really that good of a game? And most of the time, it's pretty much a no. Or when the games were released, they barely worked. They would crash and all that kind of stuff. But I am hopeful that they've learned something from the past, and especially the last couple of years. Like the Star Wars Hunters game, you expect it to be lots of microtransactions. It's like a Fortnite free to play game. I assume it's free to play. And with that in mind, that's how you pay for the game. I think it's a very fair and fine model, honestly, in that way, because you don't have to buy every skin. In fact, it's mostly just vanity that you do it. So it's kind of on you if you are on Fortnite dropping hundreds of dollars on V-Bucks to, get every fish stick clone and or costume. But so on that one, it's like that's a good place to put that stuff. If you want to make microtransactions, do it there. I'm a little bit like hesitant though about it in the sense that they just keep selling it as being on the Switch and mobile. Where I'm like, yeah, it needs to be everywhere. And I don't know if that's the plan for it or whatever, but like that's the great thing about Fortnite is I can play with you guys who are on Xbox and PC and PlayStation, and there's just like no problem with that. If they do that, or if it ends up going that route and it just kind of like rolls out on mobile and Switch, then that's cool. That's fine. But I like that ability to play on whatever platform I want. And I like the ability that like my daughter can play on her Switch and my son can play on his Xbox One, and I could play on my GeForce Now account. You know, that's fun and it works out for us. So like that kind of stuff makes these games accessible. And like Fallen Order was probably the most robust game I think we've had in a long time, where it just kind of came out and had a lot of bugs, had a lot of glitches. My kid loves glitches, man. He that flying glitch with it, and you can like get outside the map. It loves that stuff. But I did enjoy the game, but I also felt like when I played through it, I really had a good experience, but not one that I was like really wanting to go back to. I didn't want to go pick it back up and jump back in. I have no desire to replay it right now, and so that's kind of is what it is. But when you look at what we have coming in the next year in 2022 for Star Wars, and you in terms of like we have films coming between now and 2027, pretty much every other year. Not now, I should say, like what is it? It's 27, 25, and 23 to work backwards. Yeah, so in 2023. So I think we're going to see games kind of like doing that whole synergy thing and put into the mix there. There's just going to be a ton of stuff to pull from, a lot of stuff to make content from. And I think that has a lot of potential for there to be exciting stuff. But I've made it my background. I still think the first Star Wars game is one of the best. I think it's sort of weird that it like I don't think I could get that on mobile and just play it. It's one of the more fun ones. And a lot of the games that I think at the time, like for instance, Shadows of the Empire was always a bit like wonky, but at the time it was a fun game, and it was a big game and a well done game for the Nintendo 64, considering how the non Nintendo games were at the time. It was pretty good, but it also like it's not like a game that really like necessarily holds up. Like if you tried to give it to somebody to play for the first time today, once they get a little deeper into it, they're like, I'm out, almost all the time. So Ducky says that I stopped console gaming 9 years ago and I'm ready to start again. So my curiosity about the things come up is peaked. Yeah. And that's it's a interesting time in terms of do you get into console gaming or not? Like I'm not sure like if I would go with a PlayStation and Xbox or just do the PC thing, Like right now, like where I'm at, because I wanted to get the new Xbox, I wanted to get the new PlayStation, I just couldn't get them, during all of the jazz last year, and I was like, okay, I kind of just like fell like out of it. I was just like, you know what, this is work. I don't really care if people know I have it. I'm not like some people are like I got it, you guys, and I don't really care if you know. And that way I ended up getting a GeForce Now account, which is just like, and I have what's it called, a Shield TV, which is sort of like a Roku, but it's made by Nvidia. And I basically stream the PC game from Nvidia, and it's been really fun for games like Valheim and stuff. Like I really enjoyed Valheim on Nvidia or on GeForce Now, and I play Fortnite that way a lot of the time too. If the internet goes bad, which happens to everybody at times, then it sucks. When everything's up and running smooth, if you have a stable internet connection and all that kind of jazz, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty close to having an Xbox One X. It's but you don't have to have it, you don't have to own one. So I kind of like that about it. And I also have a shadow account, which also lets you kind of stream a really high quality PC for gaming, and it also works pretty good. I'm curious to see like where this stuff goes in the future, because the whole console, trying to get one is just was been so hard. I'm sure it's getting easier now, but Geek says, I robbed a bank once to play the arcade game in your backdrop. Yeah, to go back to that whole childhood nostalgia thing with Star Wars games. When I was a kid, would pretty much get out of school, go to the babysitter, wait for my dad to get off work. Dad gets off work, have dinner, then he would want to go to his buddy's house where they would work out or play video games or do whatever they would do, best friend stuff. And I played with his kids, but why I really was compliant was because on the way home from there was a 7-Eleven, and that 7-Eleven had Star Wars Arcade or whatever it's called, the 1983 Star Wars game, the Vector game. And my dad would just be like, here's some change. And he'd play sometimes, but I would mostly play. And I was super good at it. I got to a point where I just needed, one quarter and I could go through a bunch of rounds, and it would be, a good half-hour experience in the end for basically nothing. But that was, that was like my arcade game, obviously. And it's still one of the best arcade games, in terms of like classic arcade games. It really holds up, has good sounds, the music's rad. And I love it. And it's really weird that it's just so kind of shelved in a way. I remember one of the games that I didn't even like that much had it as like an extra. I think on was it the GameCube? It was the GameCube. I don't remember that much of. It just did not make that big of an impression on me. So yeah. But let me see. Oh yeah, that's the other thing too. James says, I just want a VR version of X-Wing. I don't need canon stories from games. You should definitely play Star Wars Squadrons. It's a top-notch, like, base level game, just doing I'm flying an X-Wing, I'm flying an A-Wing, I'm flying a Y-Wing or a TIE fighter. It does it. And it's pretty solid. There's hours of entertainment there. It's not even an expensive game. I want to say it's $40 max, and usually it's on sale, or you can find it on sale. And how I played that one was on an Oculus Quest 2 with I got a Shadow virtual PC, because I was all in the Mac infrastructure for work and stuff. So I haven't had a PC set up in a while, and then you can't get a 3D card right now. So that's why I ended up going with the Shadow and GeForce Now this last year. But yeah, I stream it. I basically use a program called, what was it? Virtual Desktop Streamer on the Switch. I think it was like $20 for that program, and it worked pretty much flawlessly for me. And yeah, it's such a good time. So like when you get down to it, after if you already have a PC that you could stream from, you're set. But but basically for about $350, you could be in that game playing, and it's such a good time. The only problem I had with it was after I'm talking like I played the game for like a good 2.5 months probably. And it was just after a while, like I needed more environments. I needed something new. I got really good at it. So the challenge level really fell off for me because I was playing it so often that I was so good at it that there wasn't much of a challenge anymore with your like casual player who would come in. And then it was the same environment. So that's kind of why I stopped playing it. But I had heard rumors that I hope are true that it was basically just a prototype for the Rogue Squadron movie game that they're going to make down the road, and or that was in development. But I don't know if that's even accurate or not. The game stuff is just too hard to follow rumors on, because you can be right and then you'll be wrong the next day, because things just change all the time. So I don't track that stuff too much, but I love to hear it when people tell me, Azataru, hey, how's it going? So says, hey, Jason, I love the show. Been lurking without chatting the last few weeks. Haha. But thought I'd chat this time, given it's about games. Love Ewok Hunt. You love Ewok Hunt too? God, I love Ewok Hunt. Thankfully, I could find games on PC at peak times. Yeah. And hey, I'm glad that you're joining the chat. By all means, it's so nice to hang out with Star Wars buds and have more of you guys in the chat. I dig it. But yeah, one of these days, we should definitely try and get something going where we all play something together, or anybody who's playing it when these new games come out. We should do something like that. Make a little squad for Star Wars hunters and all that. And if anybody's playing Star Wars Squadrons, maybe we could team up or something like that. I don't know if we could stream it or not. I'm not sure if my setup would really work or not. But Ducky says Shadows was fun, but we'll never have the same fond memories that GoldenEye and Mario Kart created from N64. Yeah, for me, I was just so thirsty for Star Wars at that time. We used to just get on that game and just go to the end battle and not do the objectives, just to fly the Millennium Falcon for 20 minutes shooting stuff. And, a part of me always thought I was going to like break through a barrier and then end up in the prequels or something, I don't know. But yeah, I just loved being in that game. And that's one of the things I always have to remind myself about, because, I kind of lost that like, I just love being in the Star Wars environment kind of thing. I took it for granted, after like Star Wars Galaxies and a million other games that came out where you were just in those environments. But at that time, that was like, oh, this is amazing, because it was like the first 3D Star Wars environment I think I had ever played. And James, because I didn't have a PC early, so I didn't like Dark Forces and that stuff. I knew of it, I saw it, I played it a little bit, excuse me, but I didn't have it. James Washington says Fortnite rules. I am with you. I think Fortnite is definitely a much better game than the mainstream. I think it's like kind of cool to be like, oh, Fortnite, and then talk about like little Fortnite punks and stuff like that. But I don't really have those experiences that a lot of the people have that are bad. And I like how every season it kind of refreshes and the map changes. And I'm hoping that this new Star Wars game has some kind of plan like that, because that just keeps me in. The last season with the UFO stuff, I know I've been like in and on this UFO kick, but it's just a coincidence. But it was actually just truly a fun season, you know. Phil Spencer says, "Here at Xboxes, we have some Star Wars surprises. Just you wait." I love me some Star Wars surprises. I do. James says, "Cannot wait for the open world Star Wars games. But if you can get into a ship and fly from land to space and land on another planet with full freedom, that would be a dream." Yeah. Yeah, that's always one of the like issues that they have with Star Wars games. I think it was Amy Hennig who was doing the canceled Ragtag game. And she was talking about how, like in Star Wars, you have wipes and it goes like good guy, bad guy, and back and forth and stuff like that, because it's like it has like that episodic feel. That's a really complicated thing to do in a game where it's like different assets and that kind of jazz. But yeah, I'm with you. Like that's kind of like what I would want out of a Star Wars Fortnite game. Like the ability to, because like in Fortnite, you could just get into the UFO and fly around. It doesn't go super fast though, but you could technically take that up into space if they wanted to allow it and have some sort of version of that kind of jazz, and you could board. And so if they were to do that kind of stuff with the map, then I am totally going to love that game if it lets us do that kind of stuff. But I am not. I don't know. I'm kind of pessimistic about it, and like I always try and like because I love Star Wars and I want it to be good. I always try to go into everything with like a positive attitude. I was try to like I'm on its side. I'm rooting for it, Like I'm never like hope not, I don't want anything to fail. I want everything to be great. Like that's what I'm hoping for. And so if it ends up not being the best thing ever, then I just drop out. I just forget about it, or don't spend any more money on it. And that game, I don't have a good like feeling about it, but I also haven't really seen enough from it to make me super excited, But narrative-based Star Wars games is probably where I am at, probably what I care about the most. And if that's what this new game, this new rumor, if it's accurate, and it probably is, considering the people who are behind it, I would bet on it being a thing. The dual shockers probably going to be correct. But I haven't played Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. I don't know if those are any good at all, if they are or if they aren't, and I don't know if I'll try them or not. But if have any of you guys played them, if anybody in the chat's played them, let me know. Because the one thing that I heard was that it was like they were kind of like everyone was pretty mixed about them, but it was like people didn't get it or they loved it. It was like it was sort of like love and hate and just boom right down the middle. No one you fell on one side or the other. Carver says more UFO shows. Yeah, I definitely want to get into more UFO shows for sure. I was just messaging with Jason Pemberton this morning, and we were talking about how I was like, we need to get on that. We need to do we need to hear his thoughts on that JJ doc, on the JJ Bad Robot documentary. And I want to do a bit of a re-review of it too. Not just to keep retreading, but it's got to sit a little while, and I am a little bit more firm in my stances on things on it. And yeah, it would be fun to revisit that, but also to get into like more cases and stuff too. because I find all of that stuff just fascinating. Um, as that as that true? As it true? Is that how you say it? Am I even getting close? Man, I hate having to read stuff out loud for the first time online. That sucks. Um, sorry. As someone who loves most things Star Wars, I tend to not watch Star Wars content on YouTube, etc., because of the negativity, despite making videos myself. So I appreciate the show. Thank you. And I need to, I will check out your stuff today. Um, yeah, and I think that's kind of been the vibe about YouTube for most Star Wars fans, is that it's the YouTube audience has, or sorry, the YouTube creator crowd has been rewarded for being negative. They are rewarded for pushing drama and making life into a soap opera. And you just see like these channels that have like the Lucasfilm Civil War stuff and everything like that, and it's just like, it's bizarre that you see wrestling logic applied to a multimedia company that makes movies about laser swords. Very bizarre. It's a weird reality that we live in sometimes, or the lack of reality for the people in that reality. But yeah. So basically, I feel like when it comes to the Star Wars community itself, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, it is pretty much whatever we make it. That's both the good and sad part about the whole thing. If we let like and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people should cheerlead for something that they don't care about. Not at all. That's the biggest waste of time you could ever do. But if something is good and you like it, and you should be able to like share that. You should be able to talk about it and be enthusiastic about it. And my take is if you aren't, then walk away from it and go to something that you care about, something that you are enthusiastic about. You know, um, might sound a little hypocritical on a day when I'm like, I don't know about these games, but I am cautiously optimistic. Like but I also, I won't bullshit and lie and act like, oh God, guys, new Star Wars game, it's going to be amazing. It's got to be the best thing ever. Like, no, we've been burned a lot on that one. If the TV shows and the movies ever end up how the games have been, oh, I'll be totally out. But basically, it's such a turnoff to so many people how it goes. It's like, well, that kind of puts it up to us to just to be like, you know what, we're going to focus on the stuff that we do like and that we love. Because if you don't, then you end up in a world where Kathleen Kennedy is in a fake war with Dave Filoni and John Favreau's cooking pancakes in the back going, I just love y'all. It's just crazy made up bullshit nonsense. And I really like this stuff, and I know that you guys do too. And we should have a place where we could talk about it, and there should be places where you can without being, pretty much bullied. But at the same time, so all you can do is you just have to drown those people out by just ignoring them and just focusing on the content creators that like what you like. And there's someone going, confirmation bias. Oh, it's real. I'm with you. That's why we have people who think Kathleen Kennedy's being fired. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy's the only person to have been fired every other day, but still keeps her job. Maybe there's a lot of just crazy bullshit going around. Maybe. But it's definitely whatever we make of it. So, that's why I really like for instance, Star Wars Meg. I think she calls it how she sees it, but she focuses on what she likes and she gives her analysis. And Star Wars Santa, that dude loves Star Wars and wants to have a good time, wants to, and so I've really enjoyed those two channels on YouTube lately, and I think they're pretty solid. And I hope in this next wave, I hope 2017 YouTube Star Wars was simply that, and the future is more enthusiastic and about people who actually enjoy that stuff, because it it really is horrible. Like I am with you. Like there are times when I won't watch a Star Wars video because I don't want to get the recommendations for a bunch of drivel, a bunch of made up nonsense. And I don't I'm not so self-absorbed. I think this show is going to change anything or whatever, but I think, collectively, if the people who like it do a good job, it would make a huge difference. And gatekeeping, it's real. Gatekeeping does exist, and it's there. It's there in the Facebook groups and on Twitter and on YouTube. But what I always say is I was never like welcomed into any kind of like fold. You know what I mean? Like when I started doing my Star Wars stuff, you already had an old guard that was a bunch of fucking snobby book nerds who were who were all, mad about one thing or the other, hating life. And I was just like, their party's there. We're gonna do ours over here. They made the gates over there. That's cool because we don't play over there. We're playing over here. And that's the one thing to remember is if you ever want to make Star Wars content, just do it and do it your own way because it's so big. There's so many people involved. There's so many, I hate to put it this way, but potential customers or viewers or whatever that no one person could have it all. If you have a podcast that's like, hey, how's it going, everybody? Here we are in the morning, blah, 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 and like doing that radio thing, that audience doesn't want shit to do with me. I don't want shit to do with that audience. Like that's never a problem. Same thing with the the old book people that are spelling their own farts, talking about literature when it's not. It's fucking throwaway Star Wars books. They're fun. I dig them. Don't get me wrong, but the Star Wars community is fucking weird, man, and it's crazy. And but that's why just do it your own way on your own. Like Bespin Bulletin, that guy doing a good job. I think he got a little bit down last week, a little bit down because I get it, but marches to his own beat. Started it through Instagram, which I have to be honest with you, that's fucking weird to me. I was just like, this guy's doing it on Instagram, but he was doing it. And I'm like, that's awesome. He's doing it his own way, how he wants to do it, using whatever platform he feels comfortable with, and connected. And now I think he's one of the best people in the whole thing. And that is, I think, amazing and good. That's just where I fall on that stuff. But Dell says, why do people have a problem with Disney making money? That's what they're in entertainment business for. Yeah, I'm with you. I on that front right there. Actually I skipped a bunch of comments, but I will go back up in a second. Disney is out to make money. No shit. You know what I mean? I know you're not saying that, Dell, but it's like, yeah, it's like no shit. That's what they are about. That's what they're for. And the thing to like understand, and I don't think the world has ever even grasped firmly, is that a corporation can have a lot of really good people in it, with people with heart, with the best of intentions, passion, and love for whatever it is that they do. And they also, though, have to work next to the asshole who is a sociopathic fucking monster who doesn't care about anything and it's merely, it's a leapfrogging up the ladder for whatever they want to do, or they just want to, or the other side of it is the pencil pusher who wants to be on Bejeweled all day, not actually dealing with the stuff that needs to be done, but somehow manages to like live. Like it's much murkier than people make it seem for the most part. Disney itself, if I collectively treat it as a person, corporate personhood is a Stupid, stupid fucking idea, if you ask me. But that's the world that we live in. A corporation has all the rights of a person, and they are seen as them. And so, in a lot of ways, it's like it seems fair to flip that around and to treat it collectively, I'll put it all together and say, oh, so this is you as a person. You're a psychopath. I think that's fair. But the reality is that there's a lot of good people at Disney, and there's a lot of shitty people at Disney, Lucasfilm. It's just true, you know. God, one person at that company who, no, I'm not going to say it, but well, let's just say they called me 3 or 4 times over the years, and every single time will throw in, and Jason, your sources aren't that good. Why you fucking keep calling me then? You know, but also that's how we end up in these positions. You know, I wanted to play ball with them. I wanted just do a Star Wars thing and, interview some people here and there. But they wanted to play weird favorite games and yeah, infantilize adults because of fandom. I thought that's a thing too. They don't. I'll be honest with you. The people who are there, I don't think understand fandom for the most part, because you can just look at one little section of it and define that, and then pretend that you're an expert on it. But in reality, it's like looking at those book people. The book snobs from 2012. Those people do not represent much of the general population of anything, and yet the emphasis is there today. It still is, because it's easy. It's easy for them. But so, oh wait, I went up too far. I love the people that criticized Kathleen Kennedy without having any idea what she actually does, or people that think Filoni is qualified to run Lucasfilm, even though he would say he's not qualified. Yeah, it is true. It's like I saw Giancarlo Esposito saying thanking Kathleen Kennedy last night, as before the awards thing, for like helping him get there. And I was just like, imagine some of those guys get that, hearing that, how they're gonna love it. But yeah, it is true. Like the thing about Kathleen Kennedy that I think they generally have wrong is that she's not unlike Rick McCallum, who you will hear, though they will say was just a yes man. But that is not what Rick McCallum was. Rick McCallum was a facilitator, a producer who said, here's the money, here's what we can do, and then had to make creative decisions on how to get the most out of that money for George Lucas, who he was hired to produce for. So you can make the yes man thing towards him all you want. Kathleen Kennedy, though, is like essentially does a lot of the same thing, but she's actually running the brand. She's George Lucas and Rick McCallum put together, sans the creativity. This is, she's critical. She knows Hollywood. She knows the movie industry. If you are making a mistake, she's going. If it's an amateur mistake, especially, she's going to see it from fucking 20 miles away, and she's going to call it. If it's a huge risk that's not worth the reward, she's going to know. And so what she does is she finds the best talent that you could imagine that's going to bring the most creativity to the idea of the project, and then she gives them what they need to deliver that. And if it starts to go in a way where delivering it becomes a problem, then it's dealt with. And not saying I'm happy that things went the way that they did all of the time. Like I don't know the ins and outs of the Gareth Edwards Rogue One story, for instance, but man, that one still pisses me off because I generally don't report on drama. I just don't want to deal with that stuff. I don't like that. I don't want to be, I don't want to be a tabloid of Star Wars, if you will. And God knows I could, and I probably would make a lot more money if I did. But when it came to like Rogue One, I was like, well, the stuff I'm hearing, man, like I'm on the side of the artist. I'm not on the side of the corporation. And a lot of times that's Kathleen Kennedy. She represents the corporation more than the artist, I'd say. And so in that kind of instance right there, I was just like, oh, here's what's going on. They're taking the movie from him. And then you have Pablo Hidalgo types go out and say, oh no, that's not true. And just totally said everything I said was bullshit and it was all a lie. And as the years have gone on, it's all been true. It was all true. Maybe he didn't know. I think he did though, because he was there a lot. So, but that kind of shit, like it just kind of all that stuff leaves like a bad taste in my mouth for a lot of the Lucasfilm culture, if you will. A lot of those people, though, truly are. The Yes Men thing does apply to a lot of it, because for years it was just a bunch of people who had to essentially deliver the whim of one man, and that was George Lucas. And then afterwards, you end up moving on and to Disney. Early on, there were people at Disney who were telling me like, "Oh, a lot of these people will not cut it at Disney." You know, I'm not sure how that's worked out for them over the years, though. You know, are they still there? Some of them are. A lot of them aren't, though. But yeah, and that's what's so weird when we go back to Dale's thing. You know, they're a corporation about making money, and like you'll hear politics brought into it a lot too. Oh, and it's like Disney is a weird company, like in the sense that like culturally, I'm gonna say I probably know more gay men who work in Disney than any other corporation that I know people from, by far. But then when you look at who controls Disney at the very top of Disney, oh, they're all right wingers, but they're capitalists first. Capitalism, for them, I think, trumps everything, and making money. So they will vote one way, but they will sell you something completely full of virtue signaling and that kind of jazz, because if you'll buy it, they'll sell it. That's what they're paid to do. So yeah, so people don't want to play the game by the rules when they don't know the rules. Yeah, that's the thing. When back to the Kathleen Kennedy thing, is she's not like, yeah, I have this idea. I'm Kathleen Kennedy, and it's about a character named Ray, and she's overpowered. She's OP'd. She's an OP'd Mary Sue named Ray, because I love Ray from Ghostbusters. And it's like she's not doing that. She's just like, what's your idea? Well, what do you got for me? And then they bring it. It's really kind of silly how they put it. And I will be honest with you, I have when I talk about like very credible, like people I know don't bullshit, I've only ever heard of there being one thing between Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy, and it was I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because it's not that even that interesting, but it was just about who calls what on set. Like, I'm making this up now, okay? This is made up. Imagine nothing really serious is going on. They're not filming. And Kathleen Kennedy comes in and says, "Hey, everyone, come over here. Let's cut the cake now. We're having cake for lunch." And then Jon Favreau is like, "Hey, it's my set. I say when we cut the cake. I cut the cheese." It was stupid like that. That's the only ever kind of thing that I have ever even heard about that was like legit. And I hear more than I want to hear about some stuff about that company. And yeah, just don't believe what these people say on here. It's like I said, it's like they're writing a wrestling show. And it's kind of funny when you look at like the audience, like there are a bunch of wrestling guys probably. Like all those double negatives in my comment. Hey, this isn't a grammar show. But yeah, what's up, guys? Hello, Mr. Francisco. How you doing, dude? One of my favorite dudes is here. So Ducky says she has not done a stellar job of keeping a position social media presence. If anything, there are many negatives. Wait, what do you mean? Are you talking about like Kathleen Kennedy herself? Because if we're talking about Kathleen Kennedy and that kind of thing, that's what I think has been interesting about her. And also because she doesn't really she's not a very up in your face kind of president of Lucasfilm. She's not like getting on the YouTube channel and addressing, doing the State of the Union address for Star Wars. And it's kind of like her being so distant and actually like doing her job is what I think allows a lot of people to put a lot of words in her mouth and make her seem however they want. Like the actual noise around the fake stuff of what she's doing is just vastly is bigger than her actual public statements that she makes. And I would rather have a Star Wars producer, Lucasfilm runner, whatever president, who is doing the work as opposed to live tweeting what they're doing all day. And that's what we have. But they want a mascot and an effigy to burn, really, when you get down to it. And it just doesn't work that way, So nobody was intentionally hurt in the making of Star Wars. They didn't seem to like Mark Wan too much, though. I was wondered. I know this is kind of something. It doesn't really get into it too much, but on the original Star Wars, the British crew oftentimes were the ones who were calling Mark Hamill a wanker and that kind of shit, like under their breath, like when they're doing like the end walking through and stuff. I was wondered if that was a problem that Mark Hahn was a British director, if that made him and that crew or the crews over there like tighter, and that's what led to some of the animosity, or was it just that they loved Irvin Kershner so much that new daddy, not the same as the old daddy, Funny because it's virtual signaling as well. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, wait, let me see. Where did it go? So Dell says they're just fire stupidity back at the people who aren't thinking. Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely true. Basically, like I wonder if the people that are buying into that stuff, like I get there's like Mike Zero, right? There's like this small amount of people like, I can't believe the shit the guy says. I watch it because I can't believe what he's saying. And so I kind of get that. I get watching it from that perspective. But are the people who watch like the 100,000 views that guy gets like on videos, is that just, do they just keep believing it? Or is it like, I don't like reality and I want to pretend like this is true because it's the stuff I want? Is it like a giant cultural LARP? It blows my mind. Jason says, did you mention our Saturday UFO show yet? I did. I said, we want to do it. We want to do it. And I want to do it. You want to do it? We all want to do it. We're going to do it. So Ducky says, not that I expect her to be on Twitter, but between Pablo, various directors, employees, Lucasfilm can seen as negative a force on social media. As the boss, I would have expected to regulate. Yeah, see, that's where we run into that whole thing. Like I said, some of my very best friends are there. And then at the same time, one of the people that you mentioned in there was literally calling me a fucking liar when all that stuff was true, was accurate, 100% accurate even. And so, that's where we run into this weird thing of corporations aren't really people, and like Ryan Johnson, that is a very, I think, an interesting thing, because I think at the time, especially, I feel a sort of kinship with him in the sense that I was getting sent the same insane shit that he was getting sent, but he was probably getting sent so much more considering he was Rian Johnson. And that's where, like, when you get into like 2017 Star Wars, you get into all of that, like, there were people who were like, hey, we're not Alex Jones, you know, we don't believe this shit. I'm not sexist. I don't hate The Last Jedi because I'm sexist. But when I have received 15 emails that morning that are essentially huge fucking sexist emails, racist emails even, it's hard to, when you start to hear the very same arguments coming out of their mouths, it's hard to not go that lies underneath. And I still do think a lot of the time that is actually the case, but not all of it, not all the time. There are, you know what I mean? Like, some people just didn't like the movie, and like, that's fair. There's certain things, like, you know, like the Holdo maneuver. Oh, why didn't they just do that every time? I get where they're coming from on that. I do think that there's a very good explanation for it, but it was kind of an unexpected thing. And there's shields on the Death Star, but they were firing out, chasing them. But anyway, a whole different, so nerdy. But you end up in a place where you do hear these things, and for the record, I'm pretty sure I was the first one to say that Finn was a stormtrooper. And when I did, I got emails from people and messages and stuff like that were like, stormtroopers aren't black, and just all kinds of ridiculous shit. And when you are the one who's having to, like, when you're getting that coming at you a lot, and then, like I said, somebody says something in the realm of, like, of that, you know, and you hear the same thing over and over, because that's one of the things about, like, a Twitter situation. When you, like, put out an article, you just hear the same shit over and over again. So some of that stuff does kind of, like, turn into, like, all this. It does start to feel like it's, like, all the same. And but what they would do is they would take that and go, well, I didn't say that one part that makes me not a racist or not a sexist or whatever happens to be. I didn't do that one part. But also at the same time, I'm not stupid, and it's very obvious that that's true, but also that they were really down to mobilize those people and take their money. And I think that's gross too. You know, like, I think everybody should be compensated to go to the UFO thing. Lou Elizondo has a book coming out. All you hear on Reddit is, oh, well, there you go. It's all not true. He just wanted to make money. Let's say, no, you know, everybody still has bills. Everybody would still love to do what they love or do what they feel like they are driven to do and be compensated for at the same time. If you can do that, it's great. Nothing wrong with that. There's a big difference between that and, like, selling a meditation app that, you know, you have to pay for, and guided classes and stuff. Totally different situation. And so when it comes down to Star Wars and, like, that kind of stuff, it's such a big thing. It's so easy to sell an idea, and there's so many people that are into Star Wars over such a vast, like, the whole world. It's everywhere. You could almost sell any idea you want. And, you know, obviously, if you have any integrity at all, you try and sell the truth. That's what I try and sell, is the truth. But you don't have to. You could just say whatever you fucking want. You could pick up whatever angle, whatever cause you want. And there are people who will buy into it because it's just that big. So that is what's complicated. So yeah, I did. And yeah, Ducky says, but and also that is like the other part is, like, the Pablo Hidalgo, right? Number one is I think he has every like right as a human who loves Star Wars before he ever worked in it to talk about it for the most part, however he wants. I mean, obviously he works in the company and that changes things, but he talks about like historical stuff and everything like that. And That's where I always thought he was interesting, and that's where I always enjoyed speaking to him, was on that level. But there definitely is that era of, I am used to being the dungeon master, and I'm the head dungeon master here, and I'm, that kind of thing, and it's not really needed. But also, if that is something that it keeps falling into, why aren't they just officially dealing with it? Why aren't they taking what those things are and making those into articles on StarWars.com instead of frivolous stuff? There's a lot of good articles on StarWars.com, to be clear, but a lot of the times there's just nothing, or when there is, it's like it's just some fucking just it's shit nobody cares about for the most part. And the shit that people care about ends up going to a dude on Twitter who people think is a representative of Star Wars talking to them. It just shows in a way how kind of misguided a lot of their actual online plan is, because the reality is that what Pablo Hidalgo is talking about is what most of the people want to actually hear. And not because Pablo Hidalgo is amazing, but because the information is locked behind ambiguity or was just never stated clear enough. And there is definitely a way to go, whenever Pablo says something, you'll see articles, like sites like mine sometimes write articles about it. Why aren't they just doing that? I will never understand that. I will never understand how they're like, they don't just like clear up misconceptions and stuff like that in that way. It's always been weird. So Francisco says, are you excited for Visions? Yeah, Visions is like really weird for me in the sense that, like I said, I'm not like, it's not like I'm not like hooked on the idea of it, I think I'm hoping I see it and then I'm like, I can't believe I wasn't more into this idea. I'm gonna watch it though. I'm gonna stay up on when it come out. Was it Tuesday night? I think. And I'm gonna stay up. I'm gonna watch it all, and then I'm gonna jump on here that night. And if you guys are up still, we'll have a little conversation about it, just to kind of like get like a first impressions of the whole thing, and talk about what worked, what didn't, and this could be one of the coolest things that has ever come out. And it could also just be like, oh, well, that was interesting, like in Star Wars comics, when the Star Wars manga comics came out, it was like, whoa, it was super exciting. They sold pretty well. I think people were pretty into it. But after, okay, there's Star Wars and manga put together. Now what? Nothing, kind of how it felt. Excuse me. But I'm hoping it's going to be something really, really amazing. And I'm going to watch it. Also, I think in LA at the Egyptian in Hollywood, if you go see like the Marvel movie that's out, you could watch one of the episodes in the theater. I'd love to do it, but I'm not going to go sit in a theater at this time. It's just not the right thing to do for me, for most people, I think. But yeah, so as the boss, I would have expected to get to regulate. That's the thing is like, how do you regulate that? Do you just say people can't talk about work on Twitter? Can you do that? I don't know. when it's like out there, I don't know. I don't think. I also don't think that is her job. She is running the company, with thousands of employees and producing movies. I don't think she really has time to personally check Twitter to make sure Pablo Hidalgo's not being a cunt. Shouldn't have said that word, but that's what I meant. So I'll own it. And that's pretty much how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised, like when he made fun of Star Wars Theory for crying about Luke Skywalker, and it made like Hollywood Reporter. I think it made Hollywood Reporter. It made one of the trades. I'm pretty sure they weren't jazzed about that. I would think, because on one hand, I'm of the opinion that if I cried about something about Star Wars and somebody laughed at me, okay, it's kind of it's kind of funny. But also pretty cool that that dude's like not not so fucking shitty masculine that he won't cry on camera. You know what I mean? And I also don't think that Pablo Hidalgo was necessarily trying to bully the guy or something like that either. I think it was, and I also think that representation actually helps get things in the trade. So I think you have all these things together, and you end up with like kind of a perfect storm of um, whatever that was. But ends up being what it is, ends up being that is the world that we live in. I mean, if you do cry, someone's gonna laugh at you. Should they? Probably not. At the same time, boy, is it a weird thing to is that not a fight I saw coming in 2021? It's just, hey, Mr. Pappas, how's it going, dude? Miss you, buddy. Steven says, any thoughts on how Star Wars will be represented in the Museum of Narrative Art? I am really excited about that museum. I really can't wait to go. I really, really I think that could be a very, very, very rad place. And Star Wars, it's like the way it's going to be presented there is going to, I'm going to guess, be exactly how George Lucas wants it to be shown, how he wants to be remembered for it or by it. That's kind of that's my guess. Just since it's his museum, that makes the most sense to me. And it's like remember like when they did like Magic of the was that Magic of Myth? It's like a very grades. It's very much like a high school level understanding of the academic side of Star Wars and mythology. I kind of expect that level for it there, and I expect it in for two reasons or three reasons even. One is if that's the safest way to do it, so just get that out of the way. The other is that you have a very general audience, and the third is that that is, I think, the level of that George Lucas feels like sort of honing in on. That's where he wants to make a difference. And I will say, his work on Young Indiana Jones Chronicles played a massive like part in my life. The way that they dealt with history and archaeology is what brought me to anthropology, which gets me into ethnography, which strangely puts me here. Doesn't make sense, but it's how it happened. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I kind of think that it's going to be represented that way. And I don't even know if we're going to see like, and then George Lucas sold it for $1 bajillion and made this place. Gave half of it away and then made this place. So, I don't know what to expect on that part of it, other than the fact that it's a really, really interesting idea, and it could be an amazing place. I think it's gonna be. I think when George Lucas really is into something like he is this, I think that's when you see the amazing results. So yeah. Mike Papa says, miss you too, work's been nutty. Stupid work. Stupid work. AJ says, been lurking, tired, gonna work a short shift, gonna come home at 3 so we could smoke spliffs and jam. Nice. So what else we got? I forgot my water today, like a dummy. Reefer Man says, hi ho, fellow nerds. What's up, Mr. Reefer Man? Best name in the chat, I'd say. So Pablo was really cool every time we met him at Salt Lake Comic Con. He signed a fandom menace poll voting him worst. Jason, you only got 16%. Man, because I probably could have done better if I hadn't been like, yeah, I'll engage you, because that was always like my well, it's just the fucking the truth is like when it comes to like the Phantom Menace, there are a lot of just awful shitheads in it. That goes without saying. At the same time, I think that if there are a lot of people who are hearing one side or only seeing one side of an argument or being kind of led down to believe this one perspective of things. And a lot of the times it hasn't been based on anything other than like feelings. And I thought of them like Padme, to be upfront with you. Would Padme talk to the separatist or would she just go to war? You know? And I think Padme would talk to them, would try to find common ground before going to war. And I don't like to use war in terms of a social fandom, you know, but that's just the truth. And with the way that like the way that people act on both sides of that whole thing, you end up putting people where they are just like stuck forever in that place. You know what I mean? There's no way to move. There's no way to move forward or out of it. There's no like, you know, and then it just becomes like, oh, we hate Star Wars, and that's our social identity. Or what, you know, in that way. That's ugly. That sucks. That's a shitty way to spend your life or your free time. And but also like when they very first just came out the gate, just like blah, like crazy, you know, they were calling me a shill and all this stuff, and it's like I'm like the least popular person in the world. Like I would be the worst shill, you know. Why get me to shill? Why not go to like the biggest Star Wars podcast who will shill for you? Why not do that? Or if what I was doing was like shilling, why not just, and you know, they said like my spoilers were given by Kathleen Kennedy herself or something weird shit like that. Why not just take that to some ass kisser? Because I never kissed ass. That's why I wasn't good at it. You know, that's why I didn't get interviews. That's why I started spoiling, because I tried to just do a good job. And I want to talk about Star Wars, and that isn't how it worked out. Isn't what they wanted. But you know, at the same time, like I said, Pablo Hidalgo, I was just like, I get it, you're a company man. But after the Rogue One stuff, when he said what I was saying wasn't true and did that whole angle, I think that guy sucks. I think he's a total shithead. You know what I mean? I think he's a dishonest shithead. So fuck him. That's my take, if anybody's wondering. So how's it going, Jay? I arrived late. Have you discussed Marshall Lucas's quote about the Star Wars sequels quoted in the late Mr. Rensler's biography on producer Howard Kazanjian? You know what? Can you show me what that quote is? Do you have it on you by any chance? Because I would love to. I have not read the Howard Kazanjian book. I was sent an email offering it to me, and I said yeah, and then it never came. So I never got one. So that's what sucks, is sometimes that happens either on purpose or an accident. And when that happens, I just kind of forget about it, you know? And Reefer says asses are dirty and shouldn't be kissed. Right. Unless that's your thing. I'm not going to kink shame anyone. But yeah, Jay, if you do have it, by all means, let's send it in and we will discuss it. Yeah, I've always thought like Marsha's history was interesting. And I've always been curious if there was any truth to the rumor, assumption. I don't know what it is, but there was a story. And as the story goes, Lucas created the special editions, became a new edit of Star Wars, and she had no rights to it. She's still an editor on it, though, so I would imagine she still gets paid, unless there was just something very specific in the divorce that changed that up, you know? But I've always been curious as to how true that was. And did she just step away because she just doesn't care about any of that stuff? You know, because I mean, there is a lot of evidence for that. she was wanting George to slow down. She didn't want to make movies. She supposedly wanted to concentrate on the relationship. But then, and then he couldn't stop until he saw it through, which I completely get. And then also she did the very unrespectable thing of just cheating on him, which is, I don't know. That's always the part where I'm just like, man, I hate it when people cheat. Cheating is just so shitty and so low. And it's like, I mean, that's one way of murdering something. It's one way of killing love. But yeah, makes me wonder if that has anything to do with her also being sort of quiet for all these years, because it's easy to make her into a bad guy. But I do totally can understand how she wanted a different life, and he was so focused on completing what he had started. That's very Star Wars language I used there on accident, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Francisco says, I wonder if they'll ever show those Lost Robot Chicken Star Wars episodes. All right, and then he asked that Seth Green talked about, and he asked, "Are you a fan?" Yeah, I dig Robot Chicken. I think that stuff is super fun. I'm not really super into the idea of like those guys doing stuff for Lucasfilm on the Lucasfilm dollar, because I feel like that kind of parody and stuff like that, it's going to work best when it's doing what's funny, not when it's necessarily pushing the company line. And so when it comes to like detours, which, for instance, I heard from inside of Lucasfilm that a lot of it was very funny, but it wasn't like a good idea. It wasn't that funny. It was at times a lot of the comedy, I should say, that wasn't funny was because it was sort of dated at the moment it was already written. Like referencing a pop song that nobody even remembers today was like one example that I had heard, and it's like there's like a music number in it, and it's like nobody's gonna care about this today. Nobody's even gonna get it. I don't even remember what the song was. That's how like much it's fallen off. And so that was always kind of like the issue with that show. And it was essentially Lucasfilm trying to capitalize on the fact that Star Wars spoofs was a whole thing. It was a big thing, and it was everywhere. And they're like, well, we should own it and control it. And that's what that was attempting to do. And so it doesn't necessarily spark like the most like confidence, where I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And I would love to see it though. I think it's a shame that those people and that team spent all that time maybe even slowing their own careers and their own other projects to work on this, and then it's just nowhere to be found. I do think it will be seen though, and when that time comes, and people will be like, oh, okay, so that's what it was. And I think that the response to it at the time was very, very lukewarm. It wasn't like it was an anticipated show. And for me, it was like, why are you doing this when you're doing the Clone Wars? Like, why aren't you just making more canon Star Wars stories? Like, why are we doing this? But because of what I said, but pretty much what it comes down to. But that's gotta really suck though, to have done all that work, put in all of that passion though, and love into it and stuff. And then I did come across that clip the other day with Seth Green and his team, and someone wants to make a Mara Jade thing or a joke, and then he's like, Lucas is like, I didn't create Mara Jade, and kicks the guy out of the room. It was a little cheesy, but I forgot all about it, and I saw it the other day, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. But I also think that it's kind of funny when you hear people talk about like George Lucas hates Mara Jade. It's like, no, he made, like, they're making the joke right there about it, which shows it's not that extreme. Like the fan fiction I read the other day, about George Lucas and the holiday special. He just like he really like is like, this is just shit, and I don't want it associated with my stuff. But he's not like really going around burning copies and flipping out. In fact, they have a perfect copy at Lucasfilm that he almost released a couple of times. But that's just the way that when things get pushed around, it kind of. So, what other medium or style of animation would you like to see Star Wars? You know, I mean, like what I really truly want are what DC does. I love DC's Batman and their superhero style animation shows and how they deal with like those stories. And I would just love to see the equivalent of that coming out pretty consistently too. If I was getting movies, animated shows, and then those kinds of like one-off films that are just like here's like an idea that we had, either that were original or adapting things like classic stories, or even if it was Legends, if they made Heir to the Empire like that, like I've said before, I'd be all about it. Or whatever book is truly good, and I think there's like maybe creative ways of dealing with those legends. I mean, you could do like old Indy at the bus stop who tells the story and that leads to the episode of Young Indy that used to be on TV. You could have people around a campfire and then they, in the Star Wars universe who tell this idea or whatever. And then we're like, and always reiterate that there's truth in Legends line, reiterate that, and that would be fun. But I prefer canon. That's one of the things about this Vision series that maybe makes me the least excited about it is the fact that the stuff is not necessarily canon. I think anything in it could become canon, but in that legend kind of way. Like, yeah, there was a brother and a sister, and this stuff happened, but where does it fit? And that kind of jazz is what I think is different. So, let me see. So yeah, something never done before, and the biggest tragedy of Detours is Dexter Jester lost out on his breakfast roll. Yeah. Yeah. And then when it comes to like genres of movies, when it comes to Star Wars, like for instance, Dune. Dune is probably gonna blow up. It looks like it's gonna, it's out in Europe now, so some of you may have seen it, but it looks like something that I'm going to enjoy watching, but I'm probably not gonna love. But that Game of Thrones Dune style of almost costume drama at times, kind of stuff. Like there is a place for that in Star Wars, and I would not mind seeing some more adult Star Wars stories being told. Maybe that's Acolyte. I don't know, but I wouldn't mind if they went into that space. Like the last generation of Star Wars films that we had from Disney, the first generation of Star Wars films from Disney, there was a lot of trying to prove to everyone they can do Star Wars for what you know it to be. I think we're past that now. Okay, like we know you can do that, Lucasfilm, but what can you when that now? How can you push that forward? That's kind of where we're at, and I would probably be happy getting movies like Solo for the rest of my life. I probably would be fine with that. But would that be the best thing I could get? I don't think so. I would rather them aim for the stars than just aim at the set expectations and just meeting that every time, because that will get old. And as somebody who loves Star Wars way too much, I will probably, would probably be okay with it, just not totally fulfilled. Like think of it like a Clone Wars episode that you like, but you don't really love that much, but you keep watching. Like that's kind of where it falls for me. Reeferman says, Wheel of Time is coming, y'all. It's Star Wars meets Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. That comment is oversimplifying things. Yeah, and that's always like, I'm curious to see how that is received. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you go into a very silly place that Star Wars can, I love it. I love silly Star Wars. When it goes into that place though, it does sort of kill a lot of like that adult side of it that Lord of the Rings does pretty well. It's still kind of silly when you think about it, but it does it fools you into thinking this is very serious and emotional, and there's real high stakes, and that's what makes Lord of the Rings connect with that audience. And there's some of those aspects I just don't know if they are um, like compliant, if they fit. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh no, I'm seeing some stuff. Do I want a Snyder? No, I don't. Um, Jay says the prequels had an aspect of what you described as a historical costume drama. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I had in mind. It's like and that's why I said like Acolyte might kind of be that, maybe. Is that it? Like I love watching, like the Borgias and that kind of jazz. There's definitely like space for those kinds of stories, or like Elizabeth, the good one. Elizabeth was the good film, right? And then the second one was like the New World or whatever. That one sucked, I think, anyway. But stories like that could completely be fascinating in the Star Wars universe, and would work and probably become revered. But you also run into that problem where when you have some parents that are checked out and think that they could put on a Star Wars movie, and they put that on, because I know my kids wouldn't want to watch that in the big picture. You definitely close off a lot, and so as we said, Disney wants to sell a lot of stuff to a lot of people. But we are running. I left my power adapter in the other room, and I only expected this to be like about 20 minutes long. But so we need to start wrapping this up, because I will just shut off. If I just shut off, that's what happened. Do you think we will get our first look at book? When do you think? I think in November at that Disney little event thingy that's coming. That's when I think so. And God, Snyder fans, please don't come and kill me. I am just not a Snyder fan myself. I'm sure you're cool. I know you're passionate. I am not. I like that Dawn of the Dead. That was fun. But yeah, it does not take it where I want it to go with this stuff, And Reefer Man says that he hopes we get the first look the Book of Boba Fett soon as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be next month. And I think we will get our first look next month. That's November. It comes out in December, and we'll start probably seeing we may see stuff coming for Christmas. I've seen some products that are coming, but I don't know when they come. So I don't know if the stuff I've seen is what's coming 6 months from now, or when. I don't know. I don't oftentimes don't know what that is, But Nike saw first look before Disney Plus Day. I think it's going to be the Disney Plus Day. Is that what it's called now? Or is that what it is? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, when they're going to show all that Disney Plus stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a very small couple of moments, maybe even from Cassian and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And yeah, but tonight I'm going to come back on around 9 p.m. with Rob, and probably with Jesse. I think Jesse is going to come, and we will probably talk a little bit about that book, about that book of Boba, the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. He just confirmed some stuff, little baby bits, and yeah, and then we'll so we will definitely be back tonight. So I'm actually doing a lot more today than I thought I was going to be doing, and which is great though, because I love hanging out with all my Star Wars buds in the chat. It's always a good time. And so if you guys are up tonight, cool. And if you're seeing this for the first time on a replay, hopefully you come and join us tonight, and we can talk about whatever's on your Star Wars brains for a little bit. And yeah, it'll be good stuff. And let me know in the comments of this video if there's anything else that you wanted to hit on that we didn't get to about the gaming stuff, because we just totally went down our own rabbit hole. But that's fun. That's why I like doing this, because I never know what to expect. It's been so much more fun than podcasting and writing for a site. Honestly, this is the most fun. So anyways, I will see you guys in about 10 hours if you're around. And if not, I will see you guys tomorrow. And I'll check in. If there's any interesting Star Wars news, I'll do one of these tomorrow in the morning. And then, but I'll do the main show at night for this week. Okay. And we will also do a post-vision show. So if you guys are up, and my friend Max is going to come on and she's going to show her Star Wars costumes off, which is going to be cool too. So yeah, a lot of stuff this week. So anyways, have a good day. Stay out of trouble, and I'll see you guys in a few.
It's not about spaceships.
Making Star Wars Show.